Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters. About 3 weeks ago, our lovely Natalie Gallagher called me, and she asked me a simple question. Would you like to present on Pathways to 500 district leaders on a Saturday morning? And before I had the chance to say no and hang up the phone, she said, oh, by the way, you have to follow Madam DTM and Tanya Walker. Which is a lot like saying, would you like to go swimming on national television behind Michael Phelps? You have 3 weeks to train. There are three reasons that actually changed my mind, and I'm up here now today. Number one is that I love Toastmasters. Number two is that I don't like to back down from a speaking challenge. In fact, that's what defines us as Toastmasters. We wouldn't be here in this room if we backed down from challenges when it came to public speaking. And the third reason is because I'm in a bit of a unique position. Because while we're all Toastmasters in this room, I'm actually not like you. I'm not a leader. I might not be a leader anytime soon. I'm actually more of a new member. I joined Buckhead Toastmasters about 3 years ago. I've been in Speakers Roundtable for about 11 months. I'm practically a new member, which means I'm positioned to provide a unique perspective on a controversial topic. I'm less like you, I'm more like your target market. I am the one that you have to engage when it comes to Pathways. That's why I'm excited to be here. So, what I want to share with you today is the what, why, how of Pathways. Now, when I say the word Pathways, everyone in this room falls into 3 buckets. Now, the first small bucket is some of you think Pathways is great, we have people in our club already on it, I love it, it's simple, it's great, let's move on. Now, the second bucket of you hear Pathways, and it makes you a little nervous, because you're sitting there knowing that your club isn't on Pathways yet, and you're secretly hoping that Philip and Karen don't show up by surprise and bust you using the CC manual. And the third bucket, when you hear the word Pathways, steam comes out of your ears, your eyes starts to twitch, you lose a little bit of sleep. And I totally understand. I've spent time in the software, but I wanted to expand my literal worldview on this topic. So I went to Reddit. Who here has heard of Reddit? I'm actually genuinely curious. Okay, most of you, that's awesome. I thought it was more of a millennial toy. So, I went to Reddit, and I read literally thousands of comments from Toastmasters around the world on what they felt about Pathways. And all of those thousands of comments can be summarized in 3 letters. Pathways, yay! Basecamp, I think it's important to distinguish the difference between Pathways and Basecamp, first and foremost. Pathways is awesome, I think we can all agree. Pathways is the new content. Basecamp is the technology we use to access that content. So when a Toastmaster would come to me and say, oh, I'm frustrated by Pathways, they're more concerned about some small flukes within the software. So that's a bit like going on iTunes to listening to the Rolling Stones. Then iTunes has some issue and you go, the Rolling Stones make terrible music. It just doesn't make sense. So we have an excellent pile of excellent, fresh new content on a software platform that's rapidly growing but has some small kinks. So, I want to play a little game, because one of the points I want to drive home right now is that software is never perfect when it first comes out. So we're going to do a little quiz together. And for those of you who get it right, I have some fancy German chocolate made by my people. So, I'm going to show you 3 critical quotes of popular technology from the past 20 years. I'm curious to know if you can guess what these are referring to. So number 1, should you buy a Sure, if you're willing to put up with some exasperating problems, everyone else should probably wait. In the back. You know? Rick? iPhone, that's exactly right. Give him a round of applause. All right. Number 2. Numerous problems with the touchscreen, tires, and drivetrain make this hard to recommend. 2013. Tesla Model S, exactly right. Give them a round of applause. And finally, this is my personal favorite, number 3. Overpriced and overbuilt, an absurd $10,000, and they dominate the room that they're in. 1998, way in the back. Yes, sir.
IBM PC.
Close. It was consumer electronic. Anyone else want to guess? 1998, New York Times. Yes, sir. That's exactly right, HDTV. Very well. So, that's my point. We have technology in our homes, in our pockets, in our driveways that wasn't perfect when it first came out. But it rapidly gets perfect over time with feedback from people like us who use it every day. So if you have qualms, concerns about the Basecamp platform, know that there's a dedicated team called the Summit team that's rapidly making it better. Now, moving on to the why. I think it's worth going over again as Toastmasters why TI decided to implement a new learning and development track. So I want to introduce the 5 whys of Pathways. Number 1 is that, of course, we're all trying to improve member engagement and retention. So my real day job is that I'm a professional speaker helping companies engage and retain talent. And one of the number 1 things that people always ask for is fresh content, ways to learn new life and job skills. So that simply aligns with that corporate principle. I want to show you guys a pretty cool tool really quickly. So Toastmasters is very forthcoming about club growth. You can go to dashboards.toastmasters.org and monitor the growth of every club, district, division in the world. Now, number 2 is very simply to update our learning. Now, I love the Content Communicator Manual. That's what I went through over the past 3 years, and I'm transitioning over now. So there's nothing wrong with CC, but it is unequivocally, inarguably, a little old. I'm going to illustrate how old it is. These are 3 things that have updated faster than the Toastmasters Communicator Manual, thankfully. Number 1, mail faction. Toastmasters is actually very forthcoming that CC has not been updated since the early 1970s. So there are men dressed like this, with this exact mustache, designing the CC manual. Not everyone can pull off facial hair like Ron. Number 2, cars. Who are my car guys? Does anyone know what that is? Reliant Robins, exactly right. 3 wheels, incredibly unsafe. This, the AMC Gremlin. A car that they named after a small, horrible creature. Pretty accurate advertising. And number 3, advertising.
Oh, wow.
Nico Time cigarettes. The smooth taste expectant mothers crave. This is one of my favorites too. I'm going to do the Toastmasters version. Nervous about your icebreaker? You might have tired blood. Take fast-acting Geritol. So, number 3 is simply to expand our options for learning. So I was reviewing the new content that we have at our disposal, and it kind of struck me that the content communicator track was a little bit like high school, right? So with CC and with high school, everyone takes the same classes up until the same point. Around junior or senior year, there's a little bit of flexibility, and that's great. What I like about Pathways is that we have 11 learning tracks available from the outset. So in that way, it's a little bit more like college. So when I hear Pathways, I think it's like Toastmasters Communication University. So lots of options for customization. Which brings me to my next point. This is an opportunity for tailored learning. So for those of you who haven't played around in Pathways yet, one of the first things that it prompts the user to do is to take a self-assessment. Pathways helps every current and new member identify what their personal motivations are, what they want to grow most quickly. And based on that, it makes a recommendation for a learning track. So right off the bat, the first 5 minutes a user spends in Pathways is identifying their goals and tailoring their objectives. I think that's pretty powerful. And I think tailored learning is like tailored clothes. It feels better, it looks better, and when you have tailored clothes, you just look amazing. It fits perfectly. And number 5, very simply, the purpose of Basecamp and Pathways is to digitize our learning. When I was researching for this presentation, it dawned on me that another perk of Pathways that I don't think we've really talked about before is that when we get to the point where Pathways is readily available on our mobile device, which it is now, but if we just have it bookmarked, it's a pretty common occurrence for me. I'm 28 years old, and my friends ask me about Toastmasters. Oh, that's so cool. What exactly is it? And I kind of have to word vomit, what I do in Pathways, what I do in Toastmasters, how it helps my life. What Pathways is going to help me do is pull out my phone, which is on my chair over there, pull out my phone and actually show them my learning progress, exactly what I'm learning. And I think that's just another layer of language that we can use to sell Toastmasters to a younger generation. All right, on to the what. So this will be a pretty brief section, but I think it's worth covering just the bare essentials of exactly what Pathways is. And again, I think it's important to divorce the ideas of Pathways and Basecamp in our mind, at least to distinguish them. So Pathways is the in-depth, interactive learning experience accessed using Basecamp. Pathways is the music, Basecamp is iTunes. So at its core essence, Pathways is 11 learning paths, or as I like to call them, Toastmasters majors. 5 levels each, and 300 total competencies. So a tremendous level of customization, options for learning. And it gets really expansive. So there are parts of Pathways where it'll prompt our members to create blogs, to grow a social media platform. It really is growing into a communication university. And finally, we get into the how. So I just want to show you from a new member's perspective, not an entire walkthrough of Pathways, but the pieces that I've pulled out and I've found the most engaging and interesting. And you can use this part of the presentation to guide a similar presentation that you might give in your own club to increase engagement. I'll have my email at the end of the presentation. If you want to email me for the slides, I'd be happy to share it. So, cool things I like about Toastmasters, or Pathways. First and foremost, if you're a little nervous about getting your members engaged with Pathways, our D44 website has some excellent resources on it. We have a member quick start guide, we have Basecamp Manager help you navigate the technology guide, so don't make the job any more challenging than it needs to be. Use the resources that our District 44 leaders have put up for you. So, right away, from the very start, this is what it's going to look like for your new members and current members when they engage with Pathways. They'll go to the main Toastmasters site, Pathways, we agree with a very nice background photo here. Go to Basecamp, and right away, we have a call to action, continue to path selection. I really like that language, because right away it sounds like I'm choosing my own path. So here's what the assessment looks like. Right away, Pathways says, what are your top 3 goals? In my case, I wanted to learn public speaking, speech writing, and project planning. And then throughout the assessment takes about 8 to 10 minutes. And so I'm going to ask members questions like this. While speaking, I'm aware of how others are reacting to what I say. Now personally, I don't strongly agree. I'm probably misreading some singles. I might think I'm doing way better than I actually am. I think we've all been there. But I have some idea, so I'll say agree. Now, using this data, what Pathways is going to do is recommend, of the 11 learning tracks, which ones it thinks is best fit that member's goals, based on their self-reported data. I think that's pretty cool. So it says, hey, we think presentation mastery is a good fit for you, but you're welcome to take a look at all 11 and read more. So once they choose a path, we'll bring them to this dashboard. It's clean, it's simple. What I like about it is very top left. The visual focal point is their progress. If there's one core principle of corporate learning and development, it's that people love to see progress, especially when it's visualized. So, for the icebreaker, again, I'm a new member. I'm just getting started with Pathways. I'll click Launch, the icebreaker. And this is the navigation screen within the icebreaker project. So you can see we have the assignment, assessing my skills before, so more tailoring, more personalization, self-identifying goals, preparing, and what I also just love about this too is Pathways just gives them copious amount of resources to make their icebreaker better. So for example, we've got a project checklist, and I know some of you leaders will appreciate this. At the very top it says, schedule your speech with the VP of Education. Assessing the skills, so giving them a mental benchmark of where they are, where they want to be. And this is another thing I really like about Pathways. We have some video tutorials. So some people are visual learners, some are audio learners, some like videos. We cover the bases. And again, we have another screen, just more resources for the user to prepare their icebreaker. And then we get to the evaluation piece. So again, it's important that we have our members constantly evaluating themselves before and after their speech to measure their growth. It's really important, especially for new members, around that sensitive retention time, the first couple of years, for them to realize that, yes, I gave myself a 3, then I gave my icebreaker, I got some great feedback, now I feel like a 5. I think that's important to see on paper. And then finally, this is just a really simple, small detail, but Pathways has a congratulations screen. I think that's pretty important, to always keep this as a positive, constant growth opportunity. So it doesn't just feel like homework. And then we get back to the main screen for them monitoring their progress. And right away, we see once they complete their icebreaker, they're at 5%. And I think, to me personally, my background's German, I'm all data-based. And for me to see measurable visual progress is pretty powerful. So, what's most important in this room especially is not just that we have buy-in here, but that we can create buy-in at our individual clubs, right? So, 5 laws of Pathways using member-centric language. So I think it would be a good idea for everyone in this room to spend or assign somebody else to spend about 5 minutes just warming our clubs up to Pathways transition. So you can use language like, this is going to help us grow our club. It'll make it easier for us to engage our friends and family members to join Toastmasters. It improves your marketability. So all of my professional speakers in the room, probably all of you actually, know that the word you is really powerful to use in speech. Selling engagement for Pathways is no different. You language is very powerful. More options. Communication University. Tailored to you and your goals, not just a one-size-fits-all program anymore. And then this is another one, cuts your learning exponentially. Or put another way, accelerates your learning curve. And finally, 5 tools for engaging members. So what else can you actually implement at your club to ensure that the Pathways sticks and is received warmly? Identify Pathways champion. So once people get warmed up into the software in your club, you'll have somebody, at least one person, who just loves Pathways. They have no problem with technology. Ask that person if they'd be willing to be your champion and just to field questions from people that aren't quite warmed up to it yet. Similar concept, Pathways mentors, just multiple Pathways champions. Then, just have a Pathways login party. It would be senseless to have members disengage because they're not as technically inclined and they run into small issues on their own. So we don't want to hear the sound of slamming laptops back at their homes. Why not, okay, I'm actually curious about this, because I know at Buckhead and at Speakers Roundtable we call it post-toasties. Who else has a post-toasties in their club? Okay, really, it was just us. Okay, so take that. That's yours forever now. That was a secret. It's not anymore. Have a post-toasties meeting where everyone just meets at a piece of place of Wi-Fi and you all log in together. Make it fun. Get through that initial technology hump together. assigned a director of learning. And I say high I because I'm a big believer in disc profiles. And if you can identify somebody in your club who's like a very high influencer, has lots of followers, loves engaging people, that'd be a great person for director of learning. And then finally, just make it fun, gamify it within your club. So Pathways does an excellent job of making it interesting and gamified through badges, through rankings, but there's no reason to not add a layer of in-person reward as well. So when people complete their icebreaker, give them icebreakers gum. Congratulate people for getting fully logged into Pathways. Set up a race between you and the club next door. Who can get everyone logged onto Pathways first? Just make it fun, right? So, to sum up everything that I've shared today, the way that I see Pathways in Basecamp is that, yes, Basecamp might have a few rough edges. But I can't think of a better group of people in the world than people in Toastmasters for helping a new member smooth out some small rough edges. So, I wish you the best of luck in your Pathways journey. Feel free to email me if you'd like the slides, and thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it.